reports, requests, and discussion topics.
Hello,
Dr. Cooper, do you
Mr.
wanna go ahead?
Pajama
We have
Audits
several.
here.
What we've done in
I'm
this
going to be recording
particular aspect of
the
our commission
public
meetings is gone
forum
ahead
of the
and
Deltona City Commission.
brought back some of the issues that
And
have
it
been
should
brought
start here
up
in
in
just a
public
few
comment in the
minutes.
past, or that commissioners have requested information on. And you have, first of all, the update on the lamplighter area, the stormwater issues and so forth.
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Mark Anthony Cooper, Assistant City Manager, City of Deltona. The lamplighter issue, as we all know, has been brought forth several times. And I will tell you some of the things that, at this point, our stormwater group has done. They went over and they inspected the entire area, which, as you know, is plagued with high groundwater tables right now that, you know, during heavy rains, the stormwater tends to pool and flood in the area. We went over to look at the culverts under the residential driveway, specifically at 1032 Lamplighter, because that was the address that made the first initial complaint. However, we found several culverts in the area that needed to be repaired or that needed to be relined. So at this point, what we've done is we have actually relined the culvert at 1032, and we have 3 other properties that are on schedule to be lined as soon as the contractor gets back into Deltona, which is probably near the end of this month, beginning of July, to actually go out to repair or reline several other culverts that are served under driveways of certain residences. The current conditions of the culverts are they should be okay. They shouldn't deteriorate any more than where they are during this period until the contractor gets back in the city to actually do the repairs. And what we've done is that in the 2019-2020 budget, if that budget is approved with the CIP, there is a stormwater project that works with design, engineering, and permitting of an improvement there, possibly an under drain system of some sort. But at this point, you know, we don't know exactly what it would do to help mitigate ponding and pooling in that area. But we are looking at several options because we do know of several residents that this affects, and this solution that we came up with will help mitigate throughout the entire community. So that's where we are tonight.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Bradford, you were on the speaker list. I'm sorry, is that for this?
No, that's for
Okay, all right, just remind me after it. Commissioner McFall, any comments? Any comments from commissioners at all? No? Okay, thank you, sir. And would you like to go ahead, since you're up there, and talk about the impact fees for the water and sewer as well?
Trying to make a
Clarify
quick
that, because
escape.
There was discussion.
Trying to make a quick escape.
Looking at impact fees and what we had already done in the past for water and sewer impact fees, and if we were going to go ahead and if raising those impact fees was going to make a difference in terms of budgetary items. Commissioner Novick, that was yours.
Yes. And it was brought up at the previous, I think it was a workshop, commission meeting, that in regards to the proposed rate increase, that we actually look at the impact fees of the water department on the operations within the city. Commissioner Nami did ask me at that time if the rate study that had been presented to the commission looked at those impact fees and how they would affect the rates. That particular study did not, and we were directed to go back and actually look to see where the study was with impact fees. The current impact fees that we have with the city of Deltona actually came from a study that was conducted by an organization in 2015. At that time, it was proposed that the impact fees be raised to a certain level per ERU of about $1,876 per 1 ERU with the water and $5,690 for the wastewater. At that period of time in 2015, the commission chose to enact the water rate increase of 1872, but chose to raise the sewer rate to $3,817 per EIU instead of the $5,690 that was proposed at that point in time. In 2018, the City of Deltona Water staff and director at the time actually went back to take another look at impact fees to look at where they were compared to other cities and other municipalities within the surrounding areas. And at this point, Deltona does have the highest impact fees on the sewer side of the I guess you can say of the chart comparison. On the water side, Deltona falls right in the middle of the game with compared to other cities such as DeLand, New Smyrna, Orange City. They fall right in the middle with impact fees. And when you look at the purpose of the impact fees, when it comes to the rates, the applicability of these fees is limited to a person who makes or causes to make an improvement to the land that requires the issuance of building permits, or any person who changes of any structure to generate additional demand on capital improvements. This really would not help the Deltona water situation when it comes to actually the revenues needed to operate the utility. So at this point, I don't think it's absolutely necessary. We did get a quote to do an actual study on impact fees, but the impact fee study was actually conducted in 2018 by staff, and I feel that is very sufficient evidence to show us that the impact fees really had no bearings on the rates and revenues.
And again, the main reason for that recommendation is because of the limited use for those.
The limited use of the impact fees, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. Commissioners, any comments on this particular item? Okay, thank you, Dr. Cooper. Commissioner Bradford?
Should I do me first or Commissioner King?
No, we're gonna do, I would have the Walhoon update really quick, and then we'll go to the others. So you want to just add on after Commissioner King then?
Yeah, that's
Okay. Okay, and the next is going to be an update from the city attorney regarding the lawsuits. And by Mr. Walhoon, I believe that was also brought up last commission meeting.
Yes, Madam Mayor. Our firm prepared a memorandum that is summarizing Mr. Walhoon's legal actions against the city. Basically, there have been 3 separate
Just went
lawsuits
and got
filed
one
by
of them, they're
Mr.
on wheels.
Walhoon.
She just went over there and got one of them, they're on wheels.
And I don't want to just read the memorandum, and it'll be, I don't have copies. but
Sure,
anybody
just grab
who
the
wants
freaking chair,
copies,
roll
I'm
it
sure
over here.
we can
on
facilitate
wheels.
that. But basically, the first lawsuit was in 2013, and this had to do with access to the road. That case was dismissed by the judge. In 2016, Mr. Walhoon brought a second lawsuit with regards to access over the city property. Basically, in that case, the city confessed judgment and basically agreed to give Mr. Walhoon everything that was requested in his complaint, and that did happen. And one of the things was the city agreed to provide, I have to wear readers now, but anyway, the city would provide Mr. Walhoon a key in order to access the lock on the 11th Avenue gate. Since that time, it's our office's understanding that there have been several attempts to provide Mr. Walhoon with a key, and that each time Mr. Walhoon refused it. So there was no desire on the city's part to not give him a key. So in that particular lawsuit, everything that was asked for in the complaint was given to Mr. Walhoon, and also his part of his attorney's fees were also paid for by the city. In 2017 is the last lawsuit up to this point, and it's a noise nuisance action. And specifically, Mr. Logan sought an injunction from the court to enjoin the city from operating the water treatment facility in an unreasonable manner, which he argued was when sound was above 55 dBA, when sound above 55 dBA was produced. 55 dBA to 60 dBA is the limit applied to residentially zoned properties via the city's ordinance. And that is also based on the time of day. Both Mr. Lawson's property and the city's property are zoned for agricultural uses, which necessarily have a much higher noise level limit, 75 dBA at all times. Basically, in that case, the judge determined that the city's arguments were successful and the city won on every account in that complaint, and entered an involuntary dismissal of all counts under Mr. Lawton's complaint. The case is currently being appealed by Mr. Lawton, and the city is in the process of preparing its response. So because it's currently in litigation with an appeal, we're very limited in what we can and cannot say. I understand that there was questions about the current zoning and land use. Mr. Lawton's property is zoned A1 prime agriculture and its resource corridor RC. The A1 zoning allows agricultural land uses, and uses within the resource corridor zoning are passive in nature. The property is developed with one single-family dwelling, which is a permissible use under the A1 zoning. And that's where we sit right now.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any questions for the city attorney on that update? No questions? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, next we'll have Commissioner King, then Commissioner Novick. Did you want to do your sample update here, or Commissioner comments?
I can do it.
Okay, and then Commissioner Bradford, and then Commissioner Novick. Is that okay? Okay, Commissioner King, I think we've got everyone here then.
I just kind of felt compelled to make a statement. I believe it's probably more lengthy than I would like for it to be, but I need to make a statement based on things that have happened recently with the city manager. I need to, let's say I'm going to get it off my chest. So I have some comments concerning the city manager, Ms. Jane Shang, and her involvement in violation of Florida Statute 104.011 and 104.15. And before I make those statements, I think it's very important that I affirm my position as a God-fearing man who believes in absolute truth, as an elected City of Deltona Commissioner, who believes that my first responsibility is not to protect the city, but to represent the citizens of Deltona District 1 and be a voice for all citizens throughout the city. I'd like to restate and reaffirm verbiage found in the City of Deltona Human Resource Department Personal Policy Manual, Section 12, Code of Conduct, Section 12.1, quote, high standards of personal conduct and integrity are essential to good service and expected for each employee. Section 12.2, quote, to avoid misunderstanding the policy in accordance with Section 112.311 through 112.326 Florida statute entitled Code of Ethics for Public Officers and Employees. Section 12.4, quote, as stewards of the public trust, all city employees must use the powers and resources of the city entrusted to them by the public to further the public interest. In accordance with the City of Deltona Vision 2026
What's that?
mission statement,
No,
core values,
I can't go
city documents are very clear. Mission statement,
I
it
was
is the
going to,
mission
but I couldn't
of the
sign into
Deltona
it.
City government to
So I'm
anticipate
just recording
and
and then I'll
to
send it to her.
provide for the needs of the residents with quality service, innovation,
They're about to
and
do my whole
leadership.
speech right now, aren't they?
Core values: 1, honesty and integrity. Our actions and relationship with the community are guided by an internal sense of honesty and integrity. We are dedicated to the highest ideal of integrity in dealing with Deltona's residents and employees, leadership and learning. Quote, we develop leaders at every level of this organization with the expectation that employees and team members must make informed and courageous decisions as leaders to the betterment of the community. Trust. Quote, we encourage and develop an atmosphere of mutual trust and appreciation among residents, employees, and policymakers. We will use clear, factual, timely communication to stimulate trust and understanding among all. There can't be one person here this evening that doesn't know that Ms. Shang, of her own free will, confessed from the dais that she committed voter fraud. It is possible that you did not know that she violated 2 Florida statutes, 104.011, false swearing and submission of false voter registration information, and 104.15, unqualified electors willfully voting, 4 times each, for a total of 8 violations. However, 2 of the 104.15 unqualified electors willfully voting felony offenses expired due to statutes of limitation. So the state attorney's office and the 7th Judicial Circuit Court charged Ms. Shang with violating 6 felonies of voter fraud. And in order to avoid prosecution, Ms. Shang took a seldom used plea deal called a pretrial intervention. Ms. Shang read and signed the following statement, quote, it is understood that this agreement is a deferral of prosecution if its terms are violated in any essential respect, or if any conditions are not completed within 60 days prior to termination date, the prosecution may be commenced. It goes on to say, it is also understood that if this agreement is revoked and I, Jane Chang, shall not be given any credit for time spent on pretrial intervention toward any sentence I may receive as a result of a conviction from the charge stated herein. The terms of Ms. Shang's pre-trial intervention plea deal, which are very similar to probation, consist of 14 separate conditions which must be satisfied over the next 12-month period. She must pay $100 prosecution fee, pay a $5,178 cost of investigation to law enforcement, perform 100 community service hours, submit a letter not acknowledging and accepting responsibility for her actions. In addition, she must pay monthly $50 to the state of Florida for costs of supervision, monthly $2 to Department of Corrections surcharge fee for supervision, monthly $1 to nonprofit First Step Incorporated per state law, and one-time $30 Department of Corrections drug testing fee. Back in December 2018, Commissioner Bradford motioned to suspend Ms. Shang, city manager, with pay pending the results of the FDLA investigation, and I second that motion. The motion failed with a 5-2 vote. In January 2019, Commissioner Bradford motioned to terminate City Manager Jane Chang with cause, as reports came indicating it appeared something, quote, something was there. And I second that motion. At the time, one commissioner voiced reservation as to taking any action against Ms. Shang until the FDLE had completed their due diligence and investigation. The motion failed again with a 5-2 vote. Now, to our mayors, commissioners, and the public, I say the investigation is complete and extremely revealing. Let me ask the question to the commissioners: what would happen to you or I if we were investigated and charged with a felony violation? Let me answer that question according to Deltona City Charter, Section 5, Paragraph 7. Paragraph 7C, the commissioner shall be suspended from office by the commission acting as a body upon return of an indictment or issuance of information charging the commissioner with any crime which is punishable as a felony, or with any crime arising out of his or her official conduct or duty, which is punishable as a misdemeanor. Paragraph 7A, a vacancy in the office of the commissioner will occur, or forfeiture of office as herein described. Paragraph 7B2, is convicted of a felony or enters a plea of guilty or nolo contendere to a crime punishable as a felony, even if adjudication of guilt has been withheld. Perhaps paragraph 7B4 is found to have violated any standard of conduct or code of ethics established by law for public officials and has been suspended from office. That's right. If any elected official on the dais were in the same position City Manager Jane Shang is in, we would be suspended and removed from public office. Is she any better than any one of us up here?
Hell no. Felon!
Please. Is she above the law? Above our city standard of code of conduct or code of ethics? I say no, she's not. And the time is now to accept the truth and restore to the city and the residents of Deltona the respect, trust, and representation they all deserve and should expect from their commissioners. Please. Mayor Hertzberg recently made the following statement concerning issues in the city. Quote, "The big thing I heard over and over again was the lack of trust." Quote, "That makes me sad," she said. Quote, "We have to do better," she added. Mayor Hertzberg is absolutely correct. We must do better. We must do the right things to gain the trust of our citizens, even if it means making difficult and unpleasant decisions. After reading through the many pages of the FDLA report by Special Agent Ted Silberstein, the Attorney General and the 7th Judicial Circuit, findings, conclusions, and pre-trial intervention agreement, I've become very concerned over what appears to be a very basic fundamental character flaw representing itself over and over again. It is a non-acceptance of responsibility for one's actions. It is the breach of trust by the continual manipulation of truth, half-truths, and lies coming from statements made by the city manager. I will explain using recently discovered examples. Number one, December 17th, 2018, Commission meeting, Jane Chang addressed the audience and Deltona Commission. Quote, "I admit it was an oversight on my part. It was a mistake that I made. It was not intentional in any way. The truth is, it would have been a mistake, quote, mistake, and quote, unintentional, if she had signed the oath of address and voted in the August 25th, 2016 election. She had been honest and asked for the correct ballot and made the proper corrections to her address. Instead, she lived the lie until it was exposed in November of 2018, 4 election cycles later." Number two, in a written statement to the DeLand Beacon, Ms. Chang stated, "Regarding my voter registration, the state attorney has not charged me with any criminal offense. For the sake of the public and tax dollars, I have entered into an agreement. I consider this, quote unquote, personal matter closed and wish to move on." The truth is, the FDLE completed a comprehensive, and this is a quote, completed a comprehensive investigation into the election law violations and found, quote, Chang violated the below listed felonies, end quote. There were 6 of them. And Ms. Chang read and signed the pretrial intervention agreement. I, Ms. Chang, will not be given any credit for time spent for pre-trial intervention toward any sentence I may receive as a result of a conviction from the charge stated herein. You see, there are charges. They're just not filed due to the pre-trial intervention. Secondly, personal matter. This is not a personal matter. Ms. Chang is employed as the Deltona city manager, paid for with taxpayer money, and everything she says and does directly reflects on the city and its residents. As are all public officials, Ms. Chang is to be held to the quote, unquote, highest ideals and quote, unquote, standards of conduct. You as a city manager have been processed by the state of Florida into the pre-trial intervention program for the next 12 months. An eyesore and embarrassment to the city of Deltona and all of our residents. Number 3, please. June 4th, 2019, Ms. Chang wrote the required, quote, letter acknowledging actions and accepting responsibility, end quote, for her felony violations. She states her, quote, position sometimes can carry personal security and privacy risks, especially for women. I took steps to make confidential my address and other information. For that reason, I used City Hall address on my driver's license, and I must have carried that over to my voter registration address. The truth is, City of Deltona documents state, quote, "It is strongly discouraged for any employee to use City Hall address to receive mail." She also stated the DMV allowed this, implying possibly it's their fault all of this happened. Then, a little later in her interview, Ms. Shang blames the supervisor of elections, stating, "I will not deny it happened. However, it's her belief," Ms. Shang's belief, "it was, quote, the responsibility of the supervisor of elections to send me, Ms. Shang, a letter notifying her that the address she provided on her voter registration was a government building and not her residential address." But she says she never received such a letter from the supervisor of elections. Continuing to put the blame somewhere else. 4. Ms. Shane stated her quote-unquote better half was with her when they went to vote in the elections and that he voted too. Though they live in the same residence, quote, she voted with District 1 ballot and her better half voted with the correct District 3 ballot. The truth is, she knew there was a problem way back in August of 25, on August 25th, 2016, and she did nothing about it until the truth was exposed in November 2018. 5, another huge concern jumps to the forefront concerning the quote, unquote, better half reference. In the city manager's employment agreement dated 2015, section 15B states moving and relocation expense status, states the employer agrees, that's the city, to pay an amount not to exceed $25,000 as reimbursement to the employee for expenses associated with her and her significant other's relocation to Deltona. It goes on to state the employer, quote, the employer shall pay for 2 housing trips for employee, including transportation, meals, and hotel, and for one of those trips, the employer shall also pay for the expenses of the trip for her significant other. Truth is, in the City Commission meeting, February 20, 2017, after a comment concerning your boyfriend, and I would surmise it's the same as better half or significant other, Ms. Shang stated she wanted to provide clarification on the statement made about her boyfriend. And then she goes on to say that the boyfriend is a 78-year-old man. He had a stroke. He was paralyzed on his right side, walks with a walker. All I'm saying is here. So if
I don't understand what this topic about boyfriend or the test.
Well, shut up and listen, you'll understand.
I give you your time, you give me mine.
Commissioner King, this is Commissioner King's time.
Thank you, Mayor.
Good job.
Just keep your trap shut and listen.
So, if he's not your boyfriend or significant other, why did the city spend taxpayer money to move him from Texas to Deltona? Are you starting to get the point now? Is there a violation of fraud laws here?
Absolutely.
I believe this is something that probably needs to be looked into. Either he's your significant other or he's not. But it can't be one time he is and the next time he's not. The truth is, Ms. Shang shares her basic fundamental character flaw in the text of this statement when she says, the facts are not always the facts. Question. If the facts are not always the facts, what are they? Answer. They are manipulations of the truth, they are half-truths, or they are lies. There's a score of examples not mentioned here, but you have enough to make the right decision. The facts point to the truth, and they point out in this FDLA, and are brought out in this FDLA report. As elected officials, we have a duty, a mandate, an obligation, and a responsibility, first and foremost, to the citizens of Deltona. To restore respect, trust, and the voice of the people to city government. And therefore, I make a motion to immediately terminate with cause the employment of the City of Deltona City Manager Jane Shang.
Yes! We've got more evidence of perjury! We can prove more perjury!
There's a motion on the floor by Commissioner King to terminate the city manager with cause, seconded by Commissioner Bradford. Is there any discussion from the City Commission? Not, may we vote, please?
You're all fucking corrupt! Every one of you!
Ladies and gentlemen,
No!
motion fails 5-2. And now we're going to take...
You're all corrupt! Every one of you! Every one of you needs to be removed! She's a felon! You better read your Florida Constitution. We own this meeting.
Step down. Go away.
Resign, Heidi. All of you.
How can you sit up there?
You're garbage.
Nasty.
That's it. Go run. Run and hide. Run and hide.
Fucking felon.
Now should never run.
Yes.
They are what?
Corrupt. Corrupt.
Bullshit session.
Shang must go. 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 Shang must go.
We're gonna get kicked out. Watch this. Watch this. She's gonna throw us out. Watch this.
She can't.
Kicked
She
out.
She can't throw us out.
Florida Constitution, Article 1, Paragraph 1. We the people are the body politic. This is our
They
meeting.
threw Eric Brain out of a meeting. You saw that.
And he won 20 grand for that.
Okay.
And guess what? When he went back and stood up there and said fuck every other word for 5 minutes, they sat and fucking took it
They did.
because it was the next town over and they knew he'd already gotten 20 grand a check from Brush, Colorado.
So I can't do shit.
I ain't even gonna fucking talk. The hell with it. They don't want to hear nothing.
Thank you, Commissioner King.
King and Bradford are the only honest ones up there.
Yeah. Why can't we vote on this? Why can't